Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Thompson Meeks, and I've been flying X-Plane since I was about this big. It's changed quite a bit since then, though, and we're really excited to show what our team has been working on since then. We just saw an awesome new F-14 Tomcat that will be default in X-Plane 12. We're super thrilled with all of the work and dedication that our team has put into that, and it's really a joy to fly. Up next, we have some videos from our development team. What they will do is show you a little bit of what they've been working on for X-Plane 12, and then they'll go a level deeper and tell you why it matters, how it adds to the immersion of X-Plane, how third-party developers can leverage this to make their products better, and what X-Plane 12 will look like. Afterwards, we'll have time for a short Q&A. So let's get started.
Hey there. So I've been trapped in my office for the last 2 years, but the upside is I have gotten a lot done. I've overhauled literally hundreds of systems inside of X-Plane, but the one I want to tell you about right now is the real weather system. So, as you probably already know, with X-Plane 11, you can set the weather with little sliders and whatnot, and you can check a box to download real weather. And when you download the real weather, what X-Plane 11 does is it downloads maybe 1,000 or 2,000 METARs. Now, a METAR is a weather report that is given at an airport. It's the actual observed conditions at that moment. But when you think about it, this technology has a little bit of a limit, doesn't it? It only knows weather right near the airport. It's not actually a global image. And it doesn't really change in time in any sort of an organized way. It's just a new report every now and again. And so when you base a real weather system on METAR reports, you're going to have weather that's inherently local in space and locked in time. Is that really the best we can do? I wanted to kick it up a notch. For X-Plane 12, I wanted to have weather that could work anywhere in the world and change smoothly over time. Is it possible? It turns out the answer is yes. So I wrote another program called Xavion. Xavion is an iPad app that I use in the cockpit of my actual airplane whenever I go flying. And what this app does is it connects to weather receivers or the net, really anywhere can grab weather, and downloads something called GRIB files from the National Oceanic Administration. Now here's what a GRIB file is. It is a global grid that surrounds the entire planet Earth, listing the weather that is computed from an algorithm that comes up with the weather forecast. Now, because this forecast is computer-generated, it covers the entire Earth. It's not just limited to areas around airports. And because it's a computer-generated forecast, it can also go out forward in time. So, the NOAA GRIB model allows global weather that covers all of space around the Earth and all of time as it moves forward in its forecast. These two things together allow weather that can vary smoothly no matter when or where you go. So we take a look here at this NOAA GRIB model that has been imported from Xavion into X-Plane 12. And this is a cloud cover model. There's 1 million data points in the model. You're seeing about 1/4 of that here. But when I got this data, I said, you know what, it's still not quite high resolution enough. I want to blend in the METAR reports so I get information from observed reports as well. So here's what happens when X-Plane starts with the GRIB model, which is the low frequency data, and then interpolates to METARs wherever weather is actually reported. This gives a global forecast with high resolution detail near the airports. It's combining the best of both worlds. So, we have a model that covers all of space and time. We also have detail that starts with the mathematical forecast, and with detail that starts with the mathematical forecast, and then blends the actual observations. Let's take a look at So, we start off with the winds, for example, the wind direction, and a low altitude, the wind direction is all over the place. But as you move up to higher altitude, then of course there's less direction. Okay. Now let's take a look at the wind speed. Wind speed is at low altitude, fairly Now let's take a look at the wind speed. Now let's take a look at the wind speed. The wind speed is fairly low, down at low altitudes. And of course, as you go to upper altitudes, you get into jet stream. That's where And so this weather model brings as well our new icing model to bear in X-Plane 12. And if you can survive a flight in icing in X-Plane, then you'll have some sort of an idea of what nature has in store for you in the real airplane. So when you put it all together, it's a pretty nice little weather model. And now we're going to go to Ben, and he's going to show you how he renders it.
How do we draw clouds? We used to use these, billboards. Our artist would draw a beautiful cloud, and we would draw it up in the sky on a rectangle. From far away, it looked okay, but when you flew close to them, you could tell they were flat. To make the clouds look 3D, we had to draw a lot of billboards, and that killed frame rate. So for X-Plane 12, we completely rewrote the cloud renderer. X-Plane 12's clouds are volumetric. Here's how it works. The weather engine sends 3D cloud information to your graphics card. Shaders then trace a path through the cloud, calculating the interaction of the water droplets in the cloud with light rays from the sun. This is what makes a cloud look like a cloud. This process of tracing a path through the cloud is called ray marching. Ray marching has several advantages. We don't have to draw any of those square billboards, so ray marching uses your graphics card more efficiently. With ray marching, the clouds look good from any camera position, outside the clouds, inside the clouds, or right on the edge. We don't have to fill the screen with white or gray when you fly into the soup. So the transition into and out of IFR is seamless and looks good under all conditions. Let me show you one more thing. In X-Plane 12, we've upgraded the scenery engine to show the effects of weather as well. X-Plane 12's scenery engine can show puddles on the ground and snow dynamically. The puddles are reflective, and when it's raining, they show water droplets. Scenery authors can specify where they want these effects with a simple weather mask that shows where snow and ice might occur in their scenery. Then X-Plane dynamically adds these effects based on the current weather. LibRain has had a huge impact on X-Plane 11. It's a third-party plugin that adds dynamic rain effects to the glass of third-party aircraft. But LibRain's impact is bigger, because LibRain is open source, and Sazo has helped us integrate LibRain directly into X-Plane 12. X-Plane 12 simulates millions of raindrops on your graphics card. Now here's the cool thing. X-Plane already knows a ton about what's happening with your aircraft because of our flight model. The flight model knows about prop wash, and jet wash, and downwash, and it knows about wind shadow, where wind hits one side of the aircraft but can't hit the other. It has all this physics information, and it feeds it to the graphics card to make the rain simulation on your glass more realistic. Once the graphics card has simulated what the raindrops do, we can draw a view out the window where the raindrops refract the light, giving you a realistic view out the window on a rainy day.
The X-Plane heavy metal hangar has had one constant for as long as I can remember. Every single airliner that we have built has been centered around traditional crank and pulley flight controls. As such, you can throw these things around the sky with about as much reckless abandon as you wish. Maintenance complained, so we had to put a stop to that. And now, introducing a first for us, a fully fly-by-wire Airbus. The A330 leverages the amazing Airbus flight control system that Austin has developed natively for X-Plane. The system respects all of the normal law limitations. The computers won't let you pull excessive G overbank, pitch up or down too much, and will save you when you get going too slow or too fast. I will say Alpha 4 protection surprised me the first time I experienced it as well. It is an entirely different flight experience to put your airplane to a specific attitude and just let go. It stays there. Coupled with the brand new auto throttle system, which allows for all of the thrust modes that we're used to, toga, flex, maximum continuous thrust, and climb thrust, the A330 behaves just like an Airbus should. And of course, the 330 works out of the box with Thrustmaster's new Airbus hardware to enhance the experience. It's like butter. Beyond the physical model of the aircraft, the generously appointed cabin with the meticulously modeled cockpit and the lovingly crafted exterior, we have taken strides in the simulation of aircraft systems. Examples? Yes, examples. The hydraulics system now simulates every single pump, all 7 of them on 3 different system loops, your green, your blue, your yellow. This is all easily set up in PlaneMaker. PlaneMaker also allows for each control surface to be set up to operate from a specific hydraulic source. The elevators, for example, both utilize the green system. The left elevator also uses the blue, and the right elevator uses the yellow system as its secondary. Failure in these systems manifest as control surface losses, exactly as you'd expect. The ECAM warning guidance system has also been well realized. If you get an engine fire or any sort of failure, the ECAM system recognizes the failure and provides a checklist for you to remedy those situations. The ECAM also manages the secondary display page, that's the bottom DU, underneath the primary. When you start the APU page turns on. When you start the engines, the engine page displays. And after takeoff and throughout the bulk of the remainder of your flight, you're left with the cruise page. When you're on approach, however, the wheel page shows up at 800 feet to give you landing gear status. It is all automatic with manual override controls. We've even gone to lengths to simulate the main gear of the A330 accurately. The gear has a special feature in that the eagle claw angle is directly tied to the strut compression. When you rotate and start taking weight off of the struts, the trailing wheel of the bogies pushes down on the tarmac as they rotate to their angled back position, giving the tail a couple extra feet of vertical clearance and resulting in better takeoff performance. We've really done all we can to pull the stops out on this airplane. We're doing things that we've never done before, and we hope that it shows.
Hi, I'm Daniela Rodriguez Careri. I've been in charge of the sound design on X-Plane since 2019. We have been working on some other fun new sound developments. In addition to the new aircraft with full suites of F-Mod sounds, we also have some other things to share. X-Plane 12 includes ambient sounds, that is, all the sounds that you will expect of the living world around you. You can now hear the sounds of the sea, the cars rumbling through the city, the tree leaves rustling in the wind, and even birds and crickets in the wild. All these sounds react to the real-world variables, changing with the time of the day, temperature, and speed and direction of the wind. The soundscape of weather in X-Plane has been redone too. That means that now you have the distinct sounds of rain, hail, and wind. These sounds interact with the ambience too, so when it's snowing, everything will sound muffled, or when it's raining, the cars on the road will sound different, more wet. The thunder effects have been upgraded, and we are using many different recordings for variety, distance, and intensity. These ambient sounds interact automatically with all F-Mode enabled aircraft, both from laminar and third parties. If you're an aircraft author, there is nothing you need to do to enable them. They will just work on the exterior process environment channel, and they will respond to your aircraft insulation characteristics as you model them. We can't forget about the sounds of airport operations either. All ground service vehicles have been upgraded with appropriate sounds recorded from real equipment. It's not just a static engine noise. They react to the amount of work they're doing and include distinct sounds for fuel pumps or elevator scissors and other moving parts. Now that jetways are animated, they make sound when moving too. As you noticed, we also have real people to drive the vehicles now. No, not you, sir. X-Plane now supports FMod 2.0. We upgraded the sound engine, and now all goodies from this new version of FMod are available to our community of developers. End users might not notice an immediate difference, but it will make life easier for all your favorite sound designers. That's all for now. I hope you enjoy the new sound environment on X-Plane 12.
X-Plane has an absolute advantage when it comes to figuring out how an aircraft will fly. But that's only part of flight simulation. Visuals matter, whether you're flying a real aircraft or a simulated aircraft. So today, we'd like to share 5 things we've done to improve what you see out the window in X-Plane 12. Trees are everywhere, and they make a huge visual impact, whether you're flying over urban areas or out in the wilderness. X-Plane 12 features a brand new 3D forest engine. Up close, trees are drawn in complete 3D. The far view consists of billboards, and the graphics card dissolves between them. Thanks to Metal and Vulkan, the entire forest engine runs on the graphics card for blazing fast frame rates. X-Plane 12's trees are animated and they sway and move in the wind. The amount of movement varies by tree species.
The airport environment is the part of the world you see up close, so we have added several improvements to airports. Runway surfaces are built using a new runway engine. Markings are placed precisely based on FAA and ICAO guidelines for a completely accurate airport setup. We have all new pavement textures that allow for more true-to-life scenes, adjusted for factors like airfield age, wear, etc. X-Plane 12 supports dynamic jetways to add an extra layer of realism. You can call for a jetway via the ground services menu. X-Plane 12 also features a control tower kit, a library of control tower objects that authors can use to add detail to airports on the X-Plane Scenery Gateway. Authors can control the style, the height of the control tower. That allows artists to really capture the look and feel of nearly any tower around the world.
I used to live in San Diego, and it was summer pretty much all the time. Every single day was warm, sunny, and clear skies. That's kind of like X-Plane from version 1 up until now. Because in X-Plane 12, seasons are a first-class part of the X-Plane 12 scenery system. First, we start with data. We collect climate and biome data so that we can figure out where the seasons change for each part of the world. It doesn't become fall at the same time everywhere. It depends on climate, it depends on latitude, and it can depend on elevation. We encode when the seasons change into our scenery files. The new season engine fits hand in glove with the 3D forest engine, especially in the winter, where having the leaves taken off of the trees in the winter makes a huge visual difference.
X-Plane 12's AutoGen has been rebuilt from newer data with better sources to add more local detail. We import data from OpenStreetMaps, NASA, ESA, and other data sources to build a digital model of the world, which X-Plane then populates with trees, buildings, roads, etc. The placement of visually important features in your cities like large buildings, industrial areas, civic and commercial spaces has also been greatly improved. All of this adds to the plausibility of the X-Plane world. We've also, as is tradition, have made leaps in the size and quality of the AutoGen library. Now we also have sports features. Those are things like stadiums, those golf courses that you fly over on approach, and even tennis courts. We also now have a large library of lighthouses. We also have city parks, even cemeteries. One of the most consequential visual additions is the inclusion of seaports and ships. Large coastal cities just aren't the same without all of this massive infrastructure.
Water is a major part of the natural environment, and the water engine has gotten a huge upgrade in X-Plane 12. In X-Plane 12, the water waves are 3D. Not only do you interact with the waves with the physics engine when you land on the water, but you can see the waves before you land on them. X-Plane's water waves are affected by the wind speed and weather conditions, but also by the type of water. We have large waves in the open ocean and smaller waves in rivers and lakes. In X-Plane 12, the entire water simulation has moved to the graphics card. The graphics card simulates the water conditions ahead of time and sends them to the CPU so the flight model can interact with that water data accurately. This is the first time we've ever done something that runs on the graphics card first and then the CPU, and it's made possible by our move to Metal and Vulkan. Besides 3D waves, X-Plane knows the depth of the water, and starting with X-Plane 12, we now know the color of the water you're flying over. This is a huge improvement for flying in the tropics.
Hello, this is Philip Ringler, flight instructor from North Carolina, here with my youngest student and probably also somewhere in the audience today. It is now possible in X-Plane to have a proper pilot-co-pilot dual control setup. So you can build yourself a cockpit with 2 sets of yokes, 2 sets of pedals, connect them all to the same computer and tell X-Plane, these are the controls for the pilot, these are the controls for the co-pilot, and X-Plane will figure out how to work with the dual inputs. And now that you have independent control inputs for the pilot side and the co-pilot side, you can deal with all kinds of control failures and jams. For example, you can jam the right aileron. Then the yoke is locked in place and you can no longer have any roll control. What you can do now is you can split the torque link between the pilot and the co-pilot, and then the pilot will still be able to control the left aileron on the left wing while the right side is jammed. And this way, the pilot can essentially fly the left half of the aircraft if there's some kind of failure in the right half of the controls. Another system we have improved for the next generation of X-Plane are the hydraulic flight controls and the hydraulic systems that power them. Now, what do we do with this hydraulic power? Well, we can power every single control surface and every wing, which can be individually assigned any combination of hydraulic sources. So you can say on the left wing, the inboard aileron is powered by systems 2 and 3. And on the right wing, the outboard roll spoiler is powered by system 1. So any combination is possible. And whenever a hydraulic system fails, you are going to lose selective control surfaces on the wings. The fleet of the next generation of X-Plane comes with a few new cockpit instruments. The updated 737 now has scalable symbology and text for the navigational display, and of course this can be used on other aircraft as well. It's not limited to our 737. As you've seen earlier, we have a Cirrus SR22 in X-Plane right now, and of course it has a GCU keyboard controller that makes the interaction with the G1000 a lot easier. And finally, the last addition to the default fleet that I'm going to show you, we have a new Citation X, which comes with its own digital flight deck based on the Honeywell Primus avionics. The Primus FMZ joins the Collins FMS that we had as a new default FMS in X-Plane, and the Primus 2000 PFD.
Hello, my name is Jim Keir. I'm new to the X-Plane team this year, and for those sins I've been condemned to work on the air traffic control systems. If we're serious about providing a full realistic simulation environment, then air traffic control really must be a part of that. To those ends, we have been spending a lot of time over the last few months refining, enhancing and generally polishing the air traffic control system. The first of the obvious changes is that there is now a single air traffic control dialog containing all of the air traffic control functions. The first tab, as you can see, contains the message log, which was previously pinned to the top of the screen, and you can scroll that, you can pause it, and you can filter it. Beneath that is the command window. The next tab we have is the frequency list, as in X-Plane 11, but now you can also tune ATIS frequencies from this dialog as well. Finally, we have the flight information and flight plan dialog. This dialog can be set to work in several different ways. It tries to remain visible when you need it, but to hide itself when you don't need it. It's a new style window, which means you can pop it out and have it on a second monitor if that's what you wish. And of course it is now VR compatible. The biggest of the functional changes that we have is that the ATC commands can now have sub-options. So instead of having a single button which issues a single command, you can refine what you're asking the air traffic control system to do with context-sensitive sub-menus which come out of the command menu. The next biggest change is an entirely new way of dealing with ATC commands, which is push-to-talk mode. The way that this works is that you assign a transmit button on one of your controllers, typically a trigger button. And this works in the same way as the transmit button on a real aircraft's joystick or yoke would. You hold down transmit, you use the hat switch on that controller to navigate the menu system, and then when you release transmit, you transmit the message. Now, this has huge benefits for HOTAS users and bigger benefits for VR HOTAS users, because it means that you're no longer breaking the immersion in the simulator when you want to deal with air traffic control. The next key feature for X-Plane 12 is that the ATC system is now region aware. Voices are also different per world region, and we now support multiple voices per region, which means that you will get a roughly appropriate voice no matter where you are in the world, and it won't always be the same controller voice.
India Center, November 750, X-ray pop, radio check.
November 750, X-ray pop, reading you string 5.
We now have more than 30 different ATC commands or requests that you can issue as a pilot, and a number of those new actions are dedicated to VFR pilots. We now have improved support for VFR flight following, we have aircraft proximity alerts, we have terrain proximity alerts, and yes, that does mean that you'll no longer be vectored through the basement of the ski lodge on finals. Beyond these, there are many hundreds of small quality of life changes. When you take them all as a whole, they do make the flying environment feel much, much richer. We have addressed the problems of the ATC controllers losing track of you when you're flying near an airport. We have new aircraft states. We have VFR position checks randomly from time to time. We have better handling of weather changes and many other things besides. So hopefully with this little taster, you can see that the ATC system is now easier to use. It's accessible to HOTAS and VR users. It's more immersive, it's more complete, more flexible and international aware. Whether you're a confirmed ATC user already, or you don't regularly use it, or have never used ATC at all in the simulator, this is a great time to come and check it out.
That's X-Plane 12. We're super happy with how everything's turning out. So let's talk a little bit about timeline. Our very first goal as we prepare for a release is getting an early beta ready for all of your favorite third-party designers. They do all sorts of important work to enrich the ecosystem around X-Plane, so we want to make sure that they have all the access they need to really optimize their products first. Once that's complete, we'll move into a public early access phase, and then from there, a full release with digital download keys, DVDs, even Aerosoft DVDs in Europe and around the world, and that sort of thing. So, Evan, I think we have some questions.
Thank you very much. We have plenty of questions. Amazing reactions coming through on our online chat, and I'm sure you guys all in the room heard everything. We've got two volunteers, Cliff on that side and Sean on that side. So folks in the room, put your hands up. They will pick some people to ask and answer some questions. I've got a couple off the stream to get started with. Thompson, I don't know how many of these you want to answer, but I'll start with Kevin. If somebody buys X-Plane 11, can it be upgraded to X-Plane 12 easily? And is there going to be any sort of guarantee or sort of, I guess, consideration if you just bought X-Plane 11 when you want to upgrade?
Gotcha. Yeah, good question, Kevin. So in the terms of upgrading X-Plane 11 orders, at this point, X-Plane 11 is still just X-Plane 11. When you buy that, that's the simulator you'll have access to. As we get closer into this release though, once we're in early access, your digital keys that you purchase on our website will be valid for both X-Plane 11 and X-Plane 12. So for instance, if you are new to X-Plane on day one of early access and you buy a key, you will get access to the V12 early beta and the full stable version of X-Plane 11.
I thought we'd have more room questions, but I'll keep going on the stream. You'll be shocked to know that Sergio from helisimmer.com wants to ask a helicopter question.
Okay.
Shocked.
We'll see.
Yes. So of course he goes, we've seen the F-14 and the A330, but are there any plans for a new default helicopter with the same quality the A330 seems to bring?
Gotcha. Yes, one of our artists has been working diligently on a new helicopter. I think I'm going to leave that one as a surprise though. I think it will make everyone really happy.
Thompson, we got somebody over here. We have Doug.
All right.
Hi, Doug Lintham from Eglin Air Force Base, Florida, that area. I am wondering if you, since it's a new product coming out, and now network systems like IVO and FatSim and even Pilot Edge are so popular and used so extensively, has there ever been any thoughts of direct integration?
Yeah,
so you don't have to have an external program like XPilot.
Sure, that's a great question. That falls into the category of things that we are working on, that we're super eager to have in the sim, but that will not be a 12.0 feature. So just like in X-Plane 11, there were intermediate versions that brought all sorts of new things. We've talked about those several times before at these shows. So that's the kind of thing that we plan to see later on in the X-Plane run.
I have a question here from David.
All right.
Yeah, real quick, David Baker. I'm just a private pilot and a teacher for photography and do aerial photography with drones for my students. Do you have, I understood, I believe, your timeline can you put any dates to that? Just a little firmer.
You know, that's a great question. No, I don't have dates for you. Basically, when we think about X-Plane, we want it to be the most enjoyable simulation experience that you can buy anywhere. And we're willing to take the time and put in the work to make sure that's the case. So on those grounds, no dates yet. We'll be sure to share them on our social media when we do.
I have a question here from XP72.
Okay.
XP72 here, YouTube streamer. I'm so excited for what I've seen so far. One quick question I didn't see, maybe I missed it. Are you guys working on anything like, I saw the rain effect, beautiful. What about snow as part of the season?
Yeah, definitely. So we actually consider snow, rain, and ice accumulation to be more of a weather effect than a season effect. You know, when you fly around in real life during the winter, not every piece of ground is snowy all the time. So just that level of integration wasn't enough for us. So like Ben talked about, we're doing a lot with shaders that enable us to move that kind of work to the graphics card. So for instance, after and during a snowstorm, when you're flying around, might be a little bit of snow on the ground, and then as it's been snowing for more and more time, that shader will add more accumulation to the ground, creating more of a whiteout effect. So yes, you'll see lots of that, icing, rain, and snow.
We got Gene from SoCal over here.
All right.
Hi, Gene Anderson, part of the local sim group here in San Diego. We are dedicated to X-Plane because of Zibo. I'd like to hijack this section and talk about 3 hours just about the standards of Zibo. Where does Zibo sit in your whole repertoire? I mean, do you invite Lubo Zebek over for dinner every night? Because I think he has won over so much loyalty to X-Plane because of the fidelity of the model. I think Pat Fuge would agree on that.
That's a great question. I have never met Zibo in person, but he's always welcome at my house for dinner. I'd love to get to know him better. So yeah, the bottom line is that the work like Zibo has done is absolutely brilliant. We welcome that, and we think that it's a really good demonstration of how open the X-Plane ecosystem is to a whole range of third-party developers. Either if you want to make those FMOD sound packs for aircraft like Daniela was talking about, or upgrade aircraft systems in other ways, that's really part of what we think makes X-Plane great.
I'm going to take an online question from Jerry. This is a question that came up in a previous live stream we did with you as well. Talk about backwards compatibility. What's going to happen to stuff that works in X-Plane 11 right now? Will it work in X-Plane 12?
Yeah, so that's always another thing that we really look towards as we're approaching a new version. We don't want to break things for everyone. So we'd expect things to work well rolling forward to X-Plane 12. There may be some features that won't work exactly out of the box, and that's why we're very interested in doing the developer early access to really let them iron out any of those concerns before the public at large gets a hold of it.
Hi, SimExpo from YouTube. I just had one question. The A330 looks absolutely brilliant, but what about custom FMS? Do we have it?
Good question. That's not been modeled yet, but like Alex said, we're going way deeper in the A330 than we have before in airliners. For a long time, our default 737 was kind of the standard of aircraft in X-Plane, and we've gone even further than that. So yeah, who knows? We might see one in the future.
This question from Patrick.
Hello, Pat Fuge, San Diego. I got my normal 30 questions. First, it's a first world problem. Price point for multiple copies.
Good question. We've not gotten far enough into the sales process to really nail all of that down, but we'll be sure to share it when we do.
Okay, second question. The new dynamic jetways versus SAM.
Okay.
Can you expand on that?
Yeah, so I don't really want to compare one to the other. With all of the things on the gateway, what we've done is really tried to make it accessible to all artists and make it a seamless experience. So you saw in the ground services window, just like as you would request a fuel truck or baggage card, you just click it, it will attach to your aircraft based on the door parameters that the author has set, and it's super easy.
So, last question. What flight level should we expect to hear crickets up to?
What's that? That's a good question. You know, it's really funny. I've spent hours and hours this week and last week editing this video to the point that every time I hear crickets outside, I'm like, oh, am I editing again? It's definitely a little disorienting.
From our live stream, can you talk about PC requirements and specifications for X-Plane 12?
Yeah, for sure. So overall, we haven't set exact recommended hardware specs for X-Plane 12 yet. We'd expect it to run pretty well on the current typical hardware that you'd expect for a modern sim.
Nate over here.
That's one of those things that we'll now nail down closer to the ship date, just like the pricing model and that kind of thing.
Hi there. So, kind of to expand on the requirements, when it comes to Vulkan, would you say that it's making it easier to optimize, especially considering how impressive the rain and particles look and how hard it is to get video cards nowadays?
Definitely, yeah. So one thing that Vulkan and Metal have done for us is they've really allowed us to go deeper into the rendering and move more work over to the GPU to better optimize it, as you were saying. So that's something that we'll continue to work on.
Next question is from James. Hey there. So you talked about AutoGen and weather and all of the new stuff there, but I didn't see anything about like ground textures and orthophotography. Obviously, you can't do the same kind of online streaming that Microsoft can, but is there any plans for improving the default ground textures?
Yeah, good question. So right now, X-Plane's scenery engine is data-based. Data-based, not data-based. As Alex was talking about, we draw data from all sorts of different places like NASA, ESA, and OpenStreetMap gives us a lot of flexibility there and a lot of really rich data. So we don't see it as a all one or all the other thing. We see orthophotos as just another data source that we'd love to integrate more deeply into X-Plane. I will say that we do have some new stuff on the way for color accuracy and that sort of thing on terrain. So yeah, you can expect to see that soon.
Hi, do you have any improvements planned for VR integration and particularly with the UI?
Yeah, good question. So there are some things that we've modernized in X-Plane 12 with VR in mind, specifically the ATC engine that Jim was talking about. We're really happy with how that's been visually improved and optimized for VR users. Beyond that, we don't have any 12.0 features that will fall into that category, but I would be surprised if we didn't see something like that coming soon.
On our live stream, Taylor is asking about VATSIM and other online networks. Will they continue to be compatible with X-Plane 12?
Oh, absolutely. So another thing that we look at when we're approaching a major update like this is compatibility. It is never our goal to break anyone's add-ons or make extra work for them. That's the last thing we want to do. So they will still be running an X-Plane just like normal.
Next question is Bruce from Savannah.
Hi, Bruce from Savannah. Don't let the accent fool you. You may have answered this already, part in the equipment requirements, but have any frame rate comparisons been done between 11 and 12? You know, same aircraft, same location, same conditions.
Yeah, that's a great question. So no, we don't have any hard data on that right now, mainly because we're still in the process of integrating all of those things together. Once we get everything running together and optimized fully, that's a function of development time, then we can start thinking a little bit more about that and moving that direction.
Way back in the left corner here.
Sorry, what was that? Okay.
Hi, my name is Nate. I'm a student pilot from Atlanta. But I heard some rumors, but I wanted a definite answer. What about backwards compatibility for third-party add-ons for the X-Plane 11?
Yeah, so typically we always target solid backwards compatibility, and this will be in that same vein. So yes, we plan on supporting our third-party artists well there.
I have Eric from San Diego.
Hi, right here in the front left.
Oh, thanks.
My question is for the newcomers to flight simulation, is there going to be flight training lessons like built into the base version of X-Plane where they can just go in and just learn the basics of flight?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm going to file that under yes and. So X-Plane 11 has some flight training modules that we intend to expand on in the long run. There are also some things that we want to add to X-Plane to make it easier for developers to make missions and that kind of thing. Probably not a 12.0 feature, but definitely something that we see as a great utility in our toolbox. If that makes sense.
We've got Alex over here in the center of the room.
Okay.
Hey, so with the current X-Plane 11, I know for a lot of our simmers, we have to go down to the X-Plane forums and download a bunch of libraries. Where do you see the libraries in X-Plane 12?
Yeah, that's a good question. As far as I know, we don't have any major changes coming to that aspect of the sim, but you know, we always want to make life easier for, again, the third parties and the users. So that's where our head is, and we'll see how that filters down for sure.
Hi, Joan from Long Beach. I got 3 questions if you don't mind.
Okay.
So my first one being is about the default jetways and how, is there any support for, say, 2 jetways for at sceneries for wide-body aircraft?
Good question. I believe so. I've not gotten to try that myself, but we have all sorts of airports in WED already from the jetway kit, and we've made those super easy to upgrade into jetways that are moving and animated and emitting sound. So I don't see how that should be a problem.
Okay. And for my second question, regarding how new runway markings have been a major feature, this is on a more regional basis for, say, Arctic airports, such as in the northern part of Japan or in Russia.
Okay.
Is there any support for, say, orange runway, markings instead of the usual white or yellow?
Interesting. I've never seen an orange marked runway, but that sounds fun. I'm not sure. I think that that's definitely something that our new system that's more modular and user-friendly for the artists, I think that that's something that it'd be able to support pretty easily. We'll have to see.
All right, and the final question being regarding the new cloud system.
Yeah.
So will there be support for the individual different kinds of clouds, such as a CB or a Strato? I don't remember the scientific name, but.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. You know, just like the world when you go out flying, there's never going to be just one kind of cloud in the sky, and we plan to simulate as many different types and shapes, thicknesses, darknesses as we can. So definitely.
From Alex on our live stream, will there be mesh editing tools available for scenery developers in X-Plane 12?
I'm not sure on that. So kind of to look forward, this was our short and fast keynote for X-Plane 12. There's all sorts of more information from each of these artists that we plan on sharing over the next few months. So I'd expect a WED-specific scenery developer type video coming in the near future.
I have one question over here.
Okay.
You guys said that you would update license keys for an updated stable version of X-Plane 11 and beta of X-Plane 12. Would the same be applied to users who use X-Plane on Steam?
On Steam. That's something we'd have to look into how that ecosystem would support it, but we can definitely look into that.
I have a question up front from Taylor.
Okay.
So in regards to your to the weather system, I know this as being a pilot. I've dipped my wing into a cloud once before, and you get turbulence on one wing, but not on the other. Is that something that where the new cloud system in the rendering is tied to the physics engine in some way?
Good question. I'm not sure if that's currently implemented, but that is exactly the kind of thing that Ben and Austin are working on right now. They're spending all sorts of time and energy really dialing in all that fun data you saw, right? And then attaching that to what you see in the outside world too. So if not now, I definitely see fun stuff like that coming. We also have some really cool new icing effects on the aircraft and the ground. So we're excited to see how that can make IFR and marginal VFR even more entertaining.
Oh, we got Michael here in the back.
Yeah, Michael Durant with Flightline VR. I'm wondering if you guys have any limitations when it comes to any of the flight envelopes, such as altitude or speed, if anything's being locked down, or if you guys are allowing us to get at any altitude as long as there's enough air and enough engine power?
Gotcha. No, that's a great question. So I'm actually going to field that one to Austin. If you stop by the Honeycomb booth at 4:30 this afternoon, we're going to have Austin on Zoom, and that's a perfect question for him.
This question is from Joshua.
All right, let's do 2 more.
So regarding the weather system, do you have any system where like it looks over mountains and how the wind interact with them?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, we also have cool stuff with how the clouds interact with mountains. So mountain flying is definitely something we enjoy and something we're looking to optimize with all of our new systems. Austin also has some cool stuff going on with the thermals in X-Plane that are really specific to glider pilots. So you can expect to see some stuff on that pretty soon. All right, last question.
Last question from Nick.
Nick.
Hello, my name is Nick, and I was wondering if X-Plane 12 will always have up-to-date AIRAC data, or if we're still going to have to rely on third-party like Navigraph.
Yeah, good question. We don't have any plans to change the way that nav data works in X-Plane, but I believe that we will have a newer AIRAC versus X-Plane 11. So, yeah. All right, well, thank you so much. One thing that a lot of people will ask is, when can you try this? And the good news is that that's today. You can stop by the Thrustmaster and Honeycomb booths and give X-Plane 12 a try. Granted, not everything has been implemented in this build, but you can see some gorgeous 3D trees, the new lighting model, some new aircraft, and it should be a lot of fun. And come to our Zoom session with Austin as well. Thank you so much.